Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Donna. You all know me. I'm the chair of CTN Ohio. Welcome. We're so glad you're here in person on Zoom. Uh, Tonight is our program, the White Writers Group Presents. And I have a couple, let's see, I have an announcement about Thursday. This week, Pumpkins Aglow. Maureen is the host. We're going to meet at Franklin Park Conservatory. I believe she said 6:30. If you haven't signed up, please do. We'd love to see you. It's always a wonderful event, and we get to mingle with all our different members. And you can bring a guest or two. Anything else going on this month? Can't think of anything. Okay. We did add one event for December, and we're going to be sending that out in November. The Justice for All SIG, with Karen and Susie are the facilitators. So I think, what are we doing? Going to a book signing at Gramercy Books in Bexley.
It's not actually at Gramercy Books.
Is it?
The event is actually going to be at the Jewish Community Center.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Okay.
So
thanks.
The book is written by a professor at Ohio State, and she's actually in the Jewish history program within the history department.
Okay. Do you remember the name of the book?
Between Two Worlds. And
okay.
The subtitle's something about Jewish brides after World War II, after the Holocaust.
Wonderful. Thank you. Okay.
I think, but Donna, you might want to have Mary talk about next month's program.
Oh, okay. Mary, would you like to talk about next month's program?
Sure. We're going to have the opportunity to have a tour of the Ohio Village, built in the 1800s. It's supposed to look like there's a whole bunch of different kinds of things to see. And Lexi Bixel is going to be our presenter, and she's a longtime docent. And
on Zoom, Mary, just to be clear, on Zoom, we're not.
Yes, it's on Zoom because she has all sorts of graphics to show. And so anyway, be sure to do that. But we've talked to her about her doing a special tour for us later. And she'll tell us about some of the times particularly Halloween and also Christmas. They have big things going on down there. So I was really interested in that. And I think you'll find her very interesting in costume.
Nice. Thank you. I would love to go. But at least we get a taste of it then next month.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. Any other announcements? Leslie?
So I'm going to be in another play, but it's not till the first weekend in December. But I don't know that I'll be able to come to the meeting in November. So just wanted to let you know. It's called Inspecting Carol. And it's about this theater company that's putting on the Christmas Carol. And they have an inspector from the National Endowment of Arts coming, and they identify this guy that's auditioning to be in the show as the inspector, and he isn't, and he's a terrible actor, but they hire him anyway. And there's just all this, crazy stuff. And the main character that's trying to play Scrooge rewrites the script, and it's hilarious.
What theater is it in?
It's at the Columbus Performing Arts Center. And the name of the theater group is the Columbus Performing Arts Center Players, I think. I've never been with them before. This is my first time.
Okay, but Leslie, you'll send me something so I can send it out?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Leslie,
where is that located?
On Franklin Avenue. kind of near Town Street, Washington. It's before Town Street if you're coming down Washington. And across that street is the topiary part.
Is Nick Congrove associated with it?
Who?
Nick Congrove?
I don't know.
Okay. He was the headliner, if you will, in the Gallery Players Broadway show last night at the JCC.
Oh, okay. No, he's not.
And I thought he was associated with that group.
Yeah, he's not associated with this particular group
Okay.
that I know
Um,
of.
Donna, is there anything you want to share about the planning meeting that we had? I know most of the folks on here were connected somehow, but just in case.
Yeah, so Maureen sent me the updated minutes and I'm going to send them out. But basically, we got next year all of the meetings planned. We penciled in 1 month, I think it was August maybe, or July, I'm not sure, but just like for an in-person thing. So our picnic is in June, and I think the following month is we penciled in an in-person get together. And I may reserve a shelter at like Westerville or something again, or something like that. And we need pop-ups, but I'm sure you all will volunteer to do something in the coming year, which I will greatly appreciate. And I just went to see the Columbus Ballet Met on Friday. It was wonderful. I got season tickets. They're $22 a ticket for our age. And there's like 3 more, and I think they're all next year. So if you want to join me, let me know. And
Friday night?
Friday, it's a matinee at 11 o'clock, and it's like $22 as opposed to like 80. So it's a senior citizen dress rehearsal. So it's wonderful.
Hey, Donna.
Yeah.
I am going to make one more update after this meeting to the minutes. So let me send that because I heard from Mary Smithson some additional information.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
I'll make it
Yeah. Because we're changing that
Yeah.
one,
the name of
one
that
event.
one. Yeah.
the Lazarus one. Okay.
Make
Yeah.
that, you can send it out.
Okay. Wonderful. Good. I'm glad I didn't send it yet. All right. I think it's time to get started. So let's see. I'm going to introduce Susie, and she will kick off our program.
Well, tonight, thank you for coming, everybody who isn't in the writers group. But we've spent the last couple of years writing our pieces for our memoirs. Now, not all of us will publish a memoir, okay? We're just writing, and just for the love of writing and just to get some feedback, because we do get valuable feedback from the members, and we get to read our pieces. And so we want to thank you for coming and listening to our pieces, and you'll get a chance to write a little bit after we finish presenting our pieces. But the theme for tonight is something I learned, which is pretty general, like we're all of an age where we've got a lot of stories. And I'm sure that you can find a story that about something that you learned, and that's what we're doing tonight. So anyway, we're going to kick it off with Mary Ann, and she's going to start us off by reading her piece.
Hi. I'm a little froggy tonight. I'm just getting over a cold, but I want to tell you about when I learned the truth. I remember when I first realized that my parents were Santa Claus. When I was 6, I saw a doll in the corner window of Dayton's, that was a department store, that I felt I just had to have, and it was a bride doll. I think we went to see Santa afterward that day because I remember I had my heart set on that doll. my parents said something like, well, maybe Santa couldn't afford such a doll. That just did not stop me. I even prayed about it several times. Well, on Christmas Eve, when I was supposed to be all tucked into my bed, I was not. After kissing my parents goodnight, I feigned sleep when Dad peeped in at me. Then I got out of bed and crept to the bedroom door and opened it just a crack. Only just in time to see my dad come out of my parents' bedroom with a cardboard box of gifts, and standing up in the middle was my bride doll. Wow. I was getting my bride doll. I crept back to bed, all smiles, no noise, and lay there with joy in my heart. Then it hit me. My parents were Santa Claus. It filled me with shock and then with dismay. This Santa thing was just a fantasy story that parents told their children because it made them excited and happy. Besides, the parents could use the Santa's elves are watching you to be sure little girls and boys behave themselves, so Santa wouldn't just pick up a piece of coal and put it in their shoes. It seemed to be a consistent story with my friends at school, so I felt a bit let down when I thought about it. But then, as I drifted off to sleep, I remembered that after all, I got the bride doll. The end. Okay, now I'd like to introduce Allison to give us a little more sober version of things. Allison, are you there?
You need to unmute, Allison.
I got it. I just didn't want any background noise while she was reading. Thank you so much. I'm Allison Forche, and my piece is called The Depths of Dementia. As I sit across the kitchen table from her, slumped over a plate full of food, staring off into space for the 6th day in a row, I continue to be perplexed. Questions are racing through my mind like I am in a maze from which I can't find my way out. Does she know where she is? Does she know what time it is? What day it is? Is she happy? I am plagued by these thoughts each day as I try to make sense of what has happened to my mother. My mother is suffering from dementia, and while she seems perfectly fine to family, friends, and strangers, all I see are the cracks in this mosaic of a person that used to be so different. Or was she really? The reality I have learned in watching her illness progress is that the answer is quite complicated. For example, her movement and mobility have definitely changed. Her gait is unstable and her movements frenetic. She darts around like she is in a hurry when there is actually no urgency to complete any task. Each movement is accompanied by sounds which suggest maximum effort, as though she is lifting heavy weights when she is only drinking a cup of coffee or placing food in her mouth. She sighs and exhales loudly through the entire process of eating a meal. These sounds are a symphony which is integral to every part of her day. Was this behavior always there? And I simply did not notice it? Was it less frequent, or I too busy because there was no diagnosis which stepped my attention into high alert mode? Unlike many her age, the time she wakes varies greatly from day to day, as does her decision of when to eat. She may wake at 9 a.m. and not eat until 12 p.m., or wake at 12 p.m. and eat at 1 p.m. One behavior that has remained consistent is that she always arrives in the kitchen with her hair and makeup complete and dressed for the day. Does she have a plan or something in her schedule? Or is she operating on autopilot like we typically do with following a routine when we wake up or go to sleep? Her food choices when she decides to eat are also a mystery. We tend to associate eating specific foods at certain times of the day, but her food choices follow no predictable pattern other than including an enormous amount of sugar and or salt, which accompany everything she eats. There are two aspects of her demeanor which are very difficult to observe. These are her irritability and depressed mood. She is like a lit fuse, ready to open fire on all who cross her path. Attempting to have a pleasant conversation with her can create a volcanic eruption of emotion. We are still in the stage of the disease where she is able to discern some of us as enemies, those closest to her, and others as too risky to share what she thinks. She is consumed with dissatisfaction for most things. Her food doesn't have enough salt or sugar, or is not the right temperature. There is nothing on TV to watch. She is armed with a complaint for each interaction or experience in her day, which does not meet her expectations. These comments range from the server who did not take care of her needs and the timing she deemed appropriate, to Walmart not designing their parking lot in a way she sanctioned as logical. Her complaints are stated as though it is obvious that everyone shares her assessment about each transgression she identifies. It saddens me to realize I will never see my mom again. It further saddens me that I have no idea how her continued decline will evolve. Will she stop fighting her memory, mobility, and independence every waking moment? Will the progression of her disease eventually dissolve the anger so she can finally make peace with the lack of control, which is robbing her of her autonomy? I wonder if she was unaware of her memory disappearing, would she simply embrace what is and accept whatever are her circumstances? What I do know is that her journey will continue, and those of us who love her will have to find our own peace and resolve to support her on this path she did not choose. Next person to share, I believe, is Roberta. I don't believe that Sandra was able to join us.
No, and I'm going to share my screen. Thank you, Allison. I know you have to go, but really appreciate you coming and reading that to us.
Thank you for letting me share.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Okay.
Alice.
I'm going to share my screen and let me know if you can hear it, because I have to, let's see if I can share sound. Okay, share sound. All right, there we go. Okay, here's Roberta.
Hi, this is Roberta Kane, and I'm going to read you my piece, What I learned about life. I've seen a lot of life. I've experienced highs and lows, apathy and passion, fear and courage, ecstasy and depression, happiness and sadness, sex and celibacy, chaos and peace, relationships, marriages, tragedies, deaths, agoraphobia, breast cancer, careers, jobs. I thought they were all just that they were just experiences, but they were lessons. Lessons from each relationship, from each marriage, from each tragedy, from agoraphobia, from breast cancer, from each career, from each client, from each friend, from each injury, from each recovery and each healing. From the people that came into my life a while and left, leaving their mark, their love, their advice, their joy, their sorrow, their pain, and their lesson. From the very few people that came into my life and stayed. Lessons learned, lessons ignored, lessons repeated over and over. So many lessons. The lessons are mine to know and explore and learn. My question is, are they mine to share? Do I share all the lessons of joy, love, ecstasy, gratefulness, as well as the pain, sorrow, loss? Do I bare my soul, open my heart, maybe to reach your soul and your heart? I've learned that things are not always as they seem. To look deeper, look harder, look inside. That there's a current underneath, a thread tying it all together. That life is fleeting, like a whisper heard in the night. Did you really hear it? Was it real? I've learned that the pain is temporary. That loyalty, fidelity, dependability, trust, faithfulness are important in relationships and marriages. That I didn't have good role models to learn from. That I can overcome childhood roadblocks, fears, and obstacles. That boundaries exist and are vital. That friendships are important and can be nurturing if you nurture them. That pain and losses can be shared. That sharing relieves part of the burden. That the insanity is temporary and can be healed. That photography is therapeutic. That walking is healing. That dancing is joyful and salubrious. That nature is restorative, exhilarating, intoxicating. That the mountains bring me hope, calm, peace, and inspiration. That travel is in my bones. That traveling alone is adventurous, courageous, and grows and nurtures my soul. That sharing my successes is bold and uplifting. That I am grateful for every day I am alive. That there is hope. That there is a light at the end of the tunnel. Yes, it's cliche, but it is there. That loving myself is enough. That I am enough. That sharing these words with you is baring my soul and opening my heart. My hope is that maybe I've reached your soul and your heart. Thank you for listening.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just got a text from Roberta. You know, she's in Slovenia right now. She's been photographing and she's been there a few days now. And today she fell and sprained her ankle.
Oh,
So tomorrow she's going to assess and see if she has to stay put or if she can go with the group.
That's no fun.
yeah.
Yeah.
So Donna,
Good.
you're up. You're up.
Well, Donna, send her our love, okay?
Yes.
Send
Yeah.
her our
Okay.
love.
I will.
Okay.
All right. So my piece is entitled What I Learned from the United Airlines Flight from Hell. Have you ever had an experience that affected you for the rest of your life? Changed the way you do things? My flight from Cleveland to Las Vegas in May of 2015 was one of those times. The most bizarre thing happened to me during that flight. The woman sitting next to me got drunk. And because she didn't recognize me when she awoke from her blackout, she began punching me in the face. What I learned about myself was that I am not a fighter and that I am still affected by the trauma of that flight. The story starts with my sister Roberta winning a trip to Honduras during the biggest week in American birding, put on by the Black Swamp Bird Observatory in Maumee Bay, Ohio in 2014. Since Roberta lived in Columbus and I lived in Cleveland at the time, We agreed to meet in Houston, Texas, where we would catch our plane together to San Pedro Sula, Honduras. My flight, United Airlines Flight 289, departed Cleveland Hopkins International Airport on Friday, March 4th, 2015, at 8:30 at night, and was headed to Las Vegas, Nevada. It was a 4-hour and 35-minute flight, so I settled into my window seat. Shortly thereafter, a woman sat next to me, and a few minutes later, another woman whose name I don't recall sat next to her. Although none of us knew each other, we made friends. The one in the middle, Lisa Samrak Roncalli, got blackout drunk and admitted to me that she also took some Xanax before the flight. She started off her drinking binge with a double vodka and soda and kept ordering drinks with a double shot of vodka. And if I had to guess, I'd say she had at least 6 or 7 more drinks. Excuse me. During that same time, I had 1 drink, a regular, not a double, vodka and soda. Lisa told the 2 of us her life story, including stories about an affair she was having, which we both found quite interesting. We spent about 3.5 hours talking, and we got along famously. But then Lisa said she was feeling spacey and said it was possibly because of the Xanax she had taken to help with her anxiety about flying. Not only did she begin slurring her words when she spoke, she then started falling over into the other woman's lap, and we had to sit her up to get her off of her. Because of the multitude of drinks she imbibed, combined with Xanax, Lisa got blackout drunk and passed out for several minutes at the end of the flight, about 30 minutes outside of Las Vegas. The cabin lights were turned off to allow people to sleep. When Lisa awoke, she looked at me and yelled, "Who the fuck are you?" and started punching me hard in the face. I started screaming at the top of my lungs, and I started yelling, help me," over and over, and I put my arms up to protect my face. And when I did that, she started punching me in the chest and the arm. She kept landing punches on my cheek, nose, eyeglasses, on my arm and my chest. She was very quick, like she was in a boxing ring, and just kept landing punches on me. I would guess she clocked me at least 7 times. I was trapped in the window seat, and I could not get out because Lisa was occupying the middle seat and was blocking my exit. It never occurred to me to punch her back or fight back rather than just defend myself. Because of my screaming, the flight attendants then turned the cabin lights back on, and they came running to see what was happening. Lisa finally stopped punching me and asked me, "What's going on?" It was clear to me that she was in a blackout because she didn't know what she had done. I said, "You punched me in the face." She said, "I did? I'm so sorry." But I just glared at her, probably because I was in shock as to what had just happened, and I wasn't feeling like I could so easily forgive her. The in-flight United Airlines customer service manager moved her away from me until the end of the flight, so the incident wouldn't escalate. Once we landed around 10:05 p.m., Las Vegas sheriffs came on board and escorted her off the plane. The sheriff told me that if I wanted to press charges, I would have to come back to Las Vegas to appear in court, and if I wasn't willing to do that, the charges wouldn't stick. I thought about the ensuing hassle and decided not to press charges. I felt conflicted, and I think it was a mistake not filing charges, but I let it go, or so I thought. I boarded my next plane in Las Vegas en route to Houston, Texas to meet Roberta. Understandably, I didn't want to sit in the window seat because of being trapped and beaten by a blackout drunk. I was able to secure an aisle seat on that leg of the trip. Roberta and I met in the airport, and when it
Donna,
was
I think we lost you.
She's
okay, let me know when I'm back. Am I back?
Yes.
You're
Yes.
back.
What was the last thing I said?
You boarded the other plane.
To San Pedro Sula.
Okay. Let's see. I boarded my next plane in Las Vegas en route to Houston, Texas to meet Roberta. Understandably, I didn't want to sit in the window seat because of being trapped and beaten by a blackout drunk. I was able to secure an aisle seat on that leg of the trip. Roberta and I met in the airport, and when it was time, we boarded our plane to San Pedro Sula, Honduras. I was pretty shaken up, and I couldn't get the incident out of my mind. The long-term effect of being beaten on this United Airlines flight from hell is that to this day, I still try to sit in the aisle seat whenever I travel, even though I always enjoyed looking out the window and taking photos both above and below the clouds. Frequently, when I fly, I tell people sitting next to me why I don't want to sit in the window seat. Most people just look at me with their mouths agape. Often, though, they promise me they won't be punching me. Sometimes, if I get a window seat, many will switch with me so that I'm more comfortable during the flight. I wrote to United Airlines and told them my story. They paid me $750, but they said if I had filed charges, they would have been authorized to pay much more. No money can compensate me for the trauma I felt then and continue to feel when I fly. It has subsided, but I always remember the incident no matter which seat I sit in. And I'm still leery about getting stuck sitting next to someone who is binge drinking and combining it with prescription drugs like Xanax. So I ask you again, has anything bizarre happened to you that changed the way you do things and caused you to learn something about yourself that you weren't aware of? I learned that I do not even think of being on the offense. That is, I'm not a fighter, and that I am still affected by the trauma of this flight 8 years later. Thank you. And now I would like to introduce Mary Greenlee for her piece.
Thank you. I know that that kind of trauma can stay with you forever. I'm so sorry it happened to you, and I'm glad that you're the only person I know that that's happened to. Okay. I'm going to talk about the good and the bad of personal intentions. We make them all the time. We act on very few of them. I'm going to talk to you about the ones I acted on. My 83 years have been sprinkled with intentions, positive intentions and negative intentions, big and small intentions, and intentions of other people. I set a bold intention this last April Fool's Day, 1 week prior to my scheduled knee replacement. My bold intention was that I would move perfectly by the end of the summer using my new knee. Now, I didn't set this intention lightly. I've been the beneficiary of 4 previous joint replacements by orthopedic chair at Ohio State, Dr. Andrew Glassman. Those surgeries permitted me to regain the strength and the movement to supervise the maintenance of my garden and remain in my home. Now, while I was, did somebody say something? You can hear? Okay, good. While I was diligently following the prescribed regimens for icing and moving the knee frequently, I began investigating the basis of my intention to continue my life at 878 Linebrook Drive. I began by recalling 4 sets of couples who lived next door. I've bonded with each of these couples and their kids for over 50 years. Why had their intentions to live at 890 Blindbrook changed? Why did they choose to leave the home they had loved? They had built their dream house and a splendid garden in the woods. The very first owners were Dr. Al and Eleanor Syverson. I also recall Eleanor saying one sunny afternoon the garden would run them out of the house. After 18 years, they did move to a beautiful condominium in Worthington and one that didn't have a garden. The second couple who moved into 890 were the Halls, and they had high school and college age kids. They did not like gardening. However, they genuinely loved their home. Failing health conditions directed their new intentions for living with their daughter near Chicago. The third couple, Reverend Vince and Marcella Fry, grew up on farms, so they knew what to do with gardens. However, they ran out of energy and strength to do what was needed. After a stairway tumble causing a hip fracture, the retired minister and his wife set new intentions for living. The Frys moved to a retirement facility. Now, the fourth family, the Mayhills, moved in about 2 years ago with the intention of raising a young family. Baby Charlotte arrived 6 months ago. She joined her 3-year-old brother, Bo. For the very first time, there's a swing set, a sandbox, and bright toys decorating the once pristine garden created in the 1970s. I love them all as neighbors. I've watched from uphill as they set a multitude of intentions over those 50 years. Some intentions flourished and others dwindled. So the question, why am I intent on staying in my home after being an eyewitness to the coming and going of positive and changing intentions next door? My life has evolved in similar ways. However, one more recent role has evolved. I find joy in being Miss Mary, the most senior neighbor. Most seniors have transitioned away from the corner of Clubview and Blindbrook. Younger residents have filled those houses with young kids. There are 8 families with kids who come to fish for frogs in my pond. There have been Victorian tea parties in my living room. The younger boys have learned how to open hickory nuts with hammers. Small groups arrive from time to time to help me pick up sticks. When I moved to Worthington Hills in 1971, I was the youngest mom on Blindbrook Drive with the youngest kids. My intention to remain in the hills has ebbed and flowed over time. Job changes, my kids grew and flew, and full-time residents dwindled just to me. My longtime intention of staying in my home is not the reason for my April intention to move perfectly with my new knee. By the end of the summer, I could get back into the garden and welcome the frog hunters and kids wanting to be offered popsicles and cookies. Could the April intention be more about being able to engage with my mostly younger neighbors? Acting on my intention for knee recovery has served both staying at 878 and being an active part of my neighborhood. In my experience, intentions come and they go. The ones that get acted upon have longevity. Intentions reflected upon can bring memories of joy and pain. Only the intentions that are acted upon can be measured. Thank you.
Harry, I think you need to introduce Sharon.
Excuse me, Sharon Mast. She is going to talk us what it's like to go to school when you can't read. Go for it, Sharon.
Okay, thank you. So, just by way of introduction, for over 20 years, I taught teenage non-readers how to read. And to do this, I had to not only acquire the skill of teaching reading, but also an understanding of how being unable to read can wound the soul. I often used what I'd learned about my students to help them reframe the way that they saw themselves and their struggles, and that led me to write this poem. It's called How to Summon Up Courage to Go to School When You Can't Read. Remember last summer at the fishing hole when only you knew how to cast the rod and stop the fish from slipping away. Think of how grandma oohs and ahs as you rub her feet when she comes from work, how she marvels at the strength and talent in your hands. Say 3 times that reading words and thinking great thoughts are 2 different skills. Remind yourself that being in the company of Alexander Graham Bell and Albert Einstein can't be that bad. Forgive the classmates who mock and dismiss you, for they know not how stupid they are. Breathe deeply and go for after-school help with that teacher, the one who looks into your eyes and loves your illiterate heart. Thank you. And our last presenter, though not the least, Susie will tell us about the time when the neckties came marching in.
25 years ago, when Otto, my husband, now husband, neckties came marching into my Water Street house in Chillicothe to fill half my closet vacated by my soon-to-be divorced husband, my life as I'd known it before took a radical turn and expanded in some very unusual ways. I'd been raised by parents who lived through the Great Depression, and although I never felt deprived, we were taught thrift and saving for the future. Frugality was part of my DNA. Even during the 30 years I was married to my previous husband, who was just as conservative in spending money as I was. He fixed what was broken and we saved. I never thought that was limiting until I met Otto. Not choosing the same kind of person to marry the second time around, I got to see a different and enlarged way of living. Here are a few ways of my life expanded being with Otto. Number 1, clocks. For over 50 years, I'd lived with only a clock in the bedroom beside my bed, but suddenly they started appearing in every room, especially the bathroom. I never dreamed of having so many clocks available to me that I didn't have to go searching to find out the correct time. What a joy to look up as I sat on the toilet to see how much time I had left before leaving for work. No more guesswork. And Otto not only brought the clocks of all shapes and sizes in, but even changed the batteries. Number 2, ink pens. Otto has a pen fetish, and it isn't ashamed to admit it. We have Papermate ink joys, Foray advanced ink bold ballpoints, Sharpie fine point markers, Bic Atlantis, Z grips, Papermate Comfort Mate Ultras, and Sharpie S gels, to name a few. And now, since he works for Huntington Bank, we have an awesome green Huntington pens galore. I never have to search for an ink pen, as well as a backup. When I need one, like the clocks, they're always within reach. Number 3, flashlights. Before Otto, I never gave much thought to flashlights. If I wanted one for some reason, there was probably one in the garage, but when Otto came, there was a search on for the brightest one he could find in all shapes and sizes. We now have small ones in most rooms in case of the occasional power outage, and of course, electronic lanterns in the hall closet and large, powerful flashlights in the corner of the kitchen that we carry when we walk in the neighborhood in the dark. We have light. Number 4, Bruce Springsteen. Before Otto, I played Bach, the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, the Mamas and the Papas, and Carole King, to name a few, on either the turntable my previous husband bought or a large boombox that sat on the kitchen counter. I had dismissed Bruce Springsteen because I thought he mumbled, and I couldn't understand the words in his songs. None of this would do for Otto. As soon as it was possible, he bought expensive tower speakers and sound system. Along with that came CDs of Bruce's studio albums, concert CDs, and DVDs. We have discographies of his songs and have read his book, Born to Run, along with attending live concerts. As my addiction grew, Bruce's musicality and poetry touched my heart, and he does get a lot of playing time on what we called our soundstage. I rock out to his songs, especially when I'm cleaning the house. Without Otto, I would have missed a lot of eclectic music, but especially missed out on Bruce Springsteen. What have I learned from all this expansion? It's okay to want and expand in new ways that I never even thought could make life easier. It took me 7 years to buy an LED light for under the kitchen cabinet that had always been so dark when I prepared food, but I finally did it. How has my influence expanded him? He's learned appreciation and care for family and friendships and how important those relationships are. He's learned that it's okay to feel the desire for something, but that doesn't mean he has to satisfy that craving immediately or at all. Above all, he and I both have learned and keep learning acceptance and love when someone has very different ideas from you. That's the beauty of what the people in our lives bring to us, and we bring to others, if we're open to expanding in love and suspending judgment. Thank you. And thanks to all our readers. And if you want to take a few minutes and comment, anybody want to comment on the reading before we get to your writings? Anybody having comments? Pat?
I love them all. I thought the Miss Mary story was charming. Your story reminded me of your big fat love book. Love the way Sharon ended her story. Everyone had something special, and I think everybody was willing to be vulnerable in telling what had happened and how it influenced them, which is why it made the writing so good. So thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Thank you. Leslie?
I thought the writing was super. Each one of you is just amazing to listen to it. So thank you.
Thank you.
Fun.
Maureen?
This is always my favorite meeting of the year, because it's so wonderful to hear the different voices when you write. Tonight we heard things that were moving, profound, vulnerable, fun, and just worth learning, living and learning, about living and learning. Great topic.
Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else? Well, thank you all. Oh, yeah, Karen.
Well, I don't really have anything new to add. I just want to second what everyone else said. Like Maureen, this is always one of my favorite meetings because I love hearing what you all have written, and it's always so well done. So thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I want to say the same thing, and I want to say that I liked every one of them, but Donna's was something I've never heard of before happening to anybody, and I will remember that. It sticks to me.
You've probably converted everyone to aisles to
So I'll see.
Right on. And if the person beside you starts drinking, you're gonna put your arm over and say, no.
Yeah. We're not putting up with that.
I was going to say, I'm going to start traveling with a bicycle helmet.
Susie, that one about your husband, yeah, I can really relate because my kids are so glad Ken's here because when they used to come, there would be no food in the refrigerator. Now they say they come to visit me and the refrigerator's full because he's like your guy. He collects things. But it's different.
Yes. And we learn a lot, don't we?
And Sharon, I loved your poem. I really did, about not being able to read. I could relate. I can't spell. And it's very hard in school. I mean, when you're not able to get the words. Yeah, and
Yes.
so thank you for being that teacher that you teacher.
I'm retired, but I always say that that was the best job I ever had. Because these kids they were so ashamed that they were so, and for that reason, they were so motivated.
Yeah, it is very shameful. I know. I mean, I know from experience. Yeah. It's wonderful to have a teacher that will help you out. Yeah.
It was great. It was wonderful.
And Mary Ann, I liked yours about Christmas too. It sure brought back memories of when I was
It did.
little and believed in Santa Claus. And yeah, I liked it. I really enjoyed it. And Mary Greenlee, I loved yours because you were there after all these years, and now you have all those little kids around you. I have no little kids around in my neighborhood. That must be so joyful.
I could recommend it. And when I go with Marianne to the villages where she is staying, I kept thinking, where are all the little kids? Because I'm so used to seeing running around. But what is really nice is to be able to congratulate them when they're doing something that's really nice. Because and there are times when they do, and encouraging them to do this, and then saying something to their parents too. So it's very reinforcing. I'm not teaching, but I am giving good reflection. So it's a mission that I never ever assumed I would have under any circumstances. I liked high school kids to teach. I didn't like little ones to do, but I've learned.
It's a great mission. They'll always remember you.
Well,
they will.
I think maybe they were. This last summer, I got to be the Grand Marshal of the 4th of July parade.
Right.
And the kids were so excited because they knew somebody, yeah, she's one of us. So that was good. Thank you.
Oh, thank you all. We really appreciate it. And now it's your turn. We've all got stories. And any story that comes to mind, we're going to give you 10 minutes on something I learned. And I found this quote by Philip Pullman. He said, "After nourishment, shelter, and companionship, stories are the thing we need most in the world." And so that's our invitation to you. We're going to take 10 minutes and you can write any story about what you've learned, something you've learned, or if that doesn't float your boat, just write anything. and then I'll invite you to read it if you so choose. So 10 minutes.